Good morning. Thank you for coming. Tim had to run out and make copies because his machine's not working. So I'm going to start off, and then he'll come and finish off after me. So if that's okay. So I'm just going to kind of talk about a few things here, just with what's transpired in Chicago and Illinois here for a while. So we've had some. Anybody plan on buying gas this month? If you're planning on buying gas, you want to buy your gas at the latest on June 30th, right? Because you know what happens on July 1st.
19 cents.
19 cents if you're not in Cook County.
Oh.
You need to read the fine print. Cook County municipalities have the right to add an additional 3 cents to the cost of the tax. So it'll be 22 cents in Cook County. That's why you didn't hear Chicago argue, because you know that they're going to go for the additional 3 cents. I don't know what Evergreen Park or Oaklawn or anybody else, but in Cook County, you got to read the fine print. Remember, the big print give it, the small print take away. So in the small print, it says that for Cook County municipalities, it didn't say the whole state, just Cook County municipalities can get up to an additional 3 cents. They don't have to, all right, but it's 3 more cents. So if you're planning on buying gas, you want to make sure you buy gas on the latest on June 30th. If you're planning on buying it in Illinois, you can obviously go elsewhere. Is everybody ready for their thank you card? You're going to get a thank you. We should get a thank you card from every other state around us, right? Because right now people are fleeing the state; they're going to other states. So states should be sending us thank you cards that we're sending them population, and we're sending them people that can buy goods and that there for it, right? Because they are. So they go after the sin taxes. So right now they're going to expand gambling in that for it, right? And then they're going to have marijuana sales in that for it. And then the next one's going to be prostitution, because that's they'll cover that one for it. So it's like, okay, so then what can't they tax at that point in time? I was really infuriated that everybody was high-fiving themselves that they were raising all of our taxes. I found that kind of very insulting. That they were like, oh, we did a great job, wasn't this great? I'm like, well, wait a second, it's my money that you're taking, right? I mean, it's not your money. But if you are a politician, you get to wave the magic wand, and you get to get a salary increase. Yeah. Right. So House slips in a salary increase, right? So don't you wish you could just snap your fingers and get an increase? The Illinois Democrats just passed that, and guess who gets to pay for it? Taxpayers, right, for it. But what they didn't pass? Well, one of the things that they didn't pass down there? Property tax reform. You know why they didn't do property tax reform? The person's initial start with MM. Give that man a dime, right? So, and his law firm does property tax appeal, right? So when you make millions of dollars, why would you do something that's going to make yourself lose millions of dollars, right? So that's why a lot of you have always asked me, do I think that they're ever going to tax pensions in Illinois? And my answer is typically no, because politicians don't mind if you pay taxes. They just don't want to pay taxes for them, right? And what does every state, county, municipal employee get? Pensions, right? So they don't want to pay taxes on it. Again, they don't mind if you do, given what they just did from raising all the taxes. Because now, if you happen to smoke in here, do you want to do the same thing on June 30th? Buy your cigarettes, and if you're buying them in Illinois, because they're going up $1 a pack. And I always find it ironic that they want to keep raising something that they say is no good, but they want to keep getting the tax revenue from it. Kind of double-edged sword for it. So so they're also, in addition to raising the gas tax, they're also raising the tax on the little sticker, right? Oh, yeah. The little sticker on your car. So if you can buy your sticker before July 1st, you may want to consider doing that, because it's going to go from $101 a year to $151 a year. If you have a regular type car. If you have a electric car, it's going to go to $251. But I did a little math on it here. So politicians really can't add; they don't do math very well. So if you have 10,000, you drove 10,000 miles, right? At 25 miles a gallon, that's 400 gallons for the year, right? That you would buy. At 38 cents, that's $152 in taxes that you would pay for that gas, right? Well, if you have 151, which is what your little sticker is going to be, and 152, that comes to 303, right? Now, if the electric car drives the same miles, and they're saying that it uses the same roads, what do they pay? They pay 251. So why is it that everybody else is still subsidizing the electric car? Right? That's what, about $72, right? $52 difference, right? So everybody in here that drives a regular car, right, that uses a gas-powered vehicle, for it, is essentially providing, on average, about another $52 a year to cover those people who have electric cars. That make any sense? I mean, this is just quick math. I just did back in the envelope, kind of said, why shouldn't they pay like, $500 or $1,000? Because again, they haven't been paying it for all these years because they don't buy gas, right? So where is all this extra money going to come from? Well, how many of you received an increase in your Social Security? Very little, right? On average, I think the average politician is going to get about a $1,600 a year increase in their because they need it, right? Because they worked hard to steal your money. So did you get an extra $1,600 increase? Right? So I like Fleetwood Mac. So everybody heard the song "Lies, Little Lies"? Tell me, lie, little lies, right? Little lies, right? Headline of this is so much for the savings. For many taxpayers, the plan's benefits would be wiped out by the car fee and tax hikes. All right, so they talked about this graduated tax in that for it, which they just want to try and steal more money in that for it. So when they look at it, if you start looking at the potential savings that are there for it, that's going to be wiped out by all of these other fee increases. Right? So when you start to look at where the expansion and where these taxes are going to come from, the bigger question becomes, now that you have, it's going to cost you at least a couple $100 more to run your car than what it did come July 1st, right? Where is that money going to come from to continue to keep living the lifestyle that you're living if they keep taking more and more of it away, right? Because if these are just the beginning of the taxes, if they can high-five themselves and give themselves, kudos for doing a balanced budget, which the budget still is not balanced because they don't have the revenue, right? It's all based on projections. So if those projections don't come through, what happens to the balanced budget? It's not there. And not in any article that I have read, nor have you heard on the news, anywhere where anybody was sorry about doing this, right? You ever say, really sorry we had to raise taxes, but they're all like, yeah, this is great. Everybody loves to pay more in taxes, right? And B, you've not heard about any cuts, right? Did you hear about any department that was going to have less revenue, or we needed to restructure it, we needed to save money or that for it? There's been nothing there for it. So if those continue to be going along the way, your income is basically fixed, right? So if the income is fixed and you have now increases in your costs, what happens to your standard of living? It goes down, right? I mean, if costs go up, it goes down. Now, if you think of it in these terms, the increase in the gas tax is not just for you, right? It's for anybody that provides transportation in the state, right? So if anybody ever used FedEx or UPS or post office, therefore, what's going to happen to their costs in Illinois? Go up, right? I mean, gas tax just doubled, right? So those taxes go up. So when that goes up, what happens? What do? They just say, oh, we're just going to eat that 20 cents or 19 cents a gallon? No, they pass that along, right? So somewhere in the cost of your goods, it's going to be farmers, right? When farmers now farmers are basically on commodity prices, right? They whatever the commodity price is higher or lower, it's based on that. Well, now they've just increased their cost in Illinois with regard to work the farm, right? Because if they use diesel or gasoline with which to run the plows and all that, right? So that increases their cost, yet commodity prices continue to fluctuate, and if commodity prices don't rise correspondingly, what happens to Illinois farmers? They become less competitive, right? So this is not just a situation which is it's affecting everybody from a direct standpoint for what you actually buy and what you're actually using, but indirectly, it's affecting you because all of these other parts of the food chain are going to go up as well, right? It's going to cost more to ship anything in Illinois, right? If you want to drive further in Illinois, it's going to cost you more, right? So it's not just it's a domino effect. It's not just one. So that being said, as that continues to go up, where is the additional money going to come from to help cover those additional expenses, right? I mean, you could do the same thing next year as you're doing this year and have less money because of it and that work. Now, part of what this also is, it's a tax grab because what they're also doing is trying to grab the money that you had from savings under the Trump tax cuts, right? So most people got money back for that for it, have lower taxes this year or for 2018 and that for it. So they're trying to grab the money while they can because if they should raise taxes again, there won't be additional money there to get it, right? And it will only exacerbate the situation because it'll make things worse on it, right? Because people will have less money as it goes along. So as time goes by, again, it's looking at what you have and are those assets producing enough additional income potentially to be able to cover the additional costs that you are going to receive, right? Because it's not just going to be one aspect, it's everything, right? These taxes that they're talking about are not taxes which are just going to be limited to just the personal driver. It goes across the whole area. It goes all across corporations and that for it, and other areas that are going to continue to have additional increases. So, I mean, especially if you are on a fixed income area for it, on a pension area for it, and you're not seeing additional increases in your annual amount, and if you are, when Social Security, a lot of times what happens is the Social Security number gets eaten up by Medicare, right? Because they can't raise Medicare premiums more than what they increase your Social Security benefits, or the hold harmless provision, therefore, right? But last year, even though you had your increase, on average, what happened? You saw an increase in your Medicare, and the amount of money that you actually got to keep after your Social Security portion for it was very minimal, right? So you have to start to look behind it, because if you start to look at it, it's, again, where are the additional funds going to come from to be able to make sure that your standard of living is staying at least even and not falling behind? Because in Illinois, you could potentially see increases at the food counter, right? If it costs more to ship goods in the state, they're going to pass that along to the grocery store, right? And in turn, the grocery store will most likely pass that along to the people that go to the grocery store, right? So these costs are not just singular in nature. They're a domino effect that goes along with them, right? And Illinois is number one in one thing, the number of people who are leaving the state, right? So if more people leave, that means there's less people here that are going to be doing what? Buying gas, purchasing cigarettes, or whatever other products that would be here for it. If there's less people here, potentially that means less revenue coming in for it. Right? Yes?
What do you think, right now we have what's called a flat tax. And moving to a graduated tax, we have to go there.
Correct.
What effect do you think they're looking at the graduated tax as a way to generate more revenue?
So the question is, do I think the graduated tax is to generate new revenue? The graduated tax debate is a question of whether they want to tax retirement benefits or try and go after other money. If you look back a few years ago when they raised the state income tax from 3.75 to 4.9, right? Not 4.9. That's permanent. That was under Blago, and that was temporary. But when they ran the numbers on it, for those people who have retirement income in Illinois, that tax, if they were to tax all of that, would roughly be about $3.2 billion, I think was the number for it. On the graduated tax number, do you have an idea what they're saying that would bring in? It's roughly $3.4 billion, right? So what they basically have said is that they don't want to tax, remember, politicians get pensions. Politicians don't like to pay taxes. They don't mind if you do, they don't want to, right? So if they're not going to get that, it's basically a wash, right? If you said I was going to start taxing retirement income, or I'm going to change the tax on it, it's the same number, right? The difference on it is everybody's focused on the percentage and not the dollars, right? If you have one person that makes $100,000 and one person that makes $50,000 and the tax is, let's call it 5%, who pays more? Who actually pays more? The person that made $100,000, right? They actually pay more in taxes. The percentage is the same. The reason I find it ironic that they're saying the flat tax, or the flat tax is immoral, is what they're trying to basically say, but a graduated tax is. Then my question is, why on the little sticker, why isn't that graduated? All right? If you have a, I don't know, a Honda Civic, just pick that as a car, right? Why isn't that $100? And if you're driving a Rolls Royce, why is that still the same $100? Right? I mean, if they're saying that the flat tax is not fair, then why is it fair that the person that's driving the Rolls Royce is paying the same amount as the person that's driving the Honda Civic? Right? I mean, am I missing something? Did I not get it? I mean, was there something that I missed along the way? Last time I checked, I think a Rolls Royce costs a little more than a Honda Civic. Last time I checked, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked. I don't own a Rolls Royce, so I don't know. My son does own a Honda Civic, so I kind of get what that cost is. But it's still basically $101 right now, right? So if the flat tax isn't fair for income, why is the flat tax fair for the little sticker? Right? I mean, if we're going to be consistent, let's be consistent, right? I mean, so when you start to look at it, what they're saying is so contradictory because it doesn't make any sense. So, and here's what I think that they're looking at. First is, again, I don't think they want to pay taxes, but they think that people won't make decisions. In one of the articles I had in here, it was funny because at the same time they were saying that they needed to raise all this other revenue, you know what they said they needed also to do? Now remember, taxes don't matter. Remember that. According to Illinois Democrats, taxes don't matter. People don't make decisions about taxes. But in order to try and get high-tech companies to come to Illinois, you know what they want to do? Wait, I thought taxes didn't matter. So they want to offer tax incentives. So wait a second, help me understand. Taxes don't matter, but we're going to offer tax incentives to try and get people to come here. Well, maybe you should have tax incentives to try and get people to stay here. Right? I mean, so what is your incentive tax-wise to stay in Illinois? If everything continues to escalate, there's no reason to stay. Yes?
Well, when they do that, then who's the one that's granting these tax breaks? It's the politicians, so it's built-in power.
Raise your hand, because you're the one that pays for it.
Right, but I'm saying, in other words, they're making it sound like they're giving you a break by, well, we're gonna raise all these taxes and then we'll lower them for companies to come in. But who's the one that's gonna be deciding what companies are they gonna be getting? So
Yeah.
you're just giving them more power.
Correct. I mean, they have the power with which to make this decision for, right? But I just find it ironic that they're saying, okay, well, taxes don't matter, but we're gonna try and provide tax breaks for people, for companies to bring business here, but yet people who live here, we wanna tax them out of the state. Again, I'm not the smartest guy around. Maybe I think I might be missing something, right? So when you start to look at it, it's always looking behind what it is that they say they're really trying to do. And basically, who's the person that's got the money or that behind it, right? So there's also part of this deal is they also wanted to have the increase in the minimum wage, right? So you heard that they want to raise the minimum wage to $15 in that for it. Well, raising the minimum wage has really it's not gonna be ineffective at all. Because you take into account the increase in the income taxes, the increase in the state income tax, right? You gotta pay that on the incremental dollars. You have an increase in your gas tax that's gonna cost you more money to get to wherever it is you're going to in that for it. You have all these additional, by the time you add up all of these additional costs that you're going to receive, maybe you're gonna get $1, maybe net extra $1, maybe $2 out of the whole thing, right? Out of the whole area, you're thinking you're getting 5, but by the time you pay tax in that for it. So the increase on it, the increase in the minimum wage will do 2 things. First, it will force small businesses to make personnel decisions. If I'm a small business owner and I employ 2 people, let's say they're both making $10 an hour for it, and now all of a sudden I have to, by law, because they just wrote a law, right? I don't get the choice. I now have to pay $15 per person, right? So now that costs me $30 an hour. I can't afford $30 an hour. So what am I going to do? I may come to both of them and say, hey, look, you can both work X number of hours less, right, and still keep my costs the same, or, sorry, Charlie, somebody's going to go, right? I mean, anybody they can write anything they want. They're worse than the mob. I mean, the least the mob is ethics, So, I mean, they keep writing things and they don't have to live with the results for it, right? But the people who actually employ people, the people, costs are going to go up. If you were a union person, why would you ever want the cost, the minimum wage to go up? Because now the difference between what you're making and what they're making has been marginalized even more. So they're good. So why would I hire you if I can hire them at the same cost, essentially, for it, right? So the whole thing that they're trying to say is helping people. It actually turns out to be regressive taxes. So regressive taxes actually hurt the people that need the money the most, right? So if somebody is making $250,000, is the increase in the little sticker on their car from $100 to $150 going to make much of an impact? Probably not. I mean, they'll complain about it, but it's not going to change their lifestyle. However, somebody that's making $20,000 then now has to also come up with another $50 to cover that sticker. That may be significant in what they're trying to do, right? So these additional taxes, guess what? If you want to send your kids to camp, you might not be able to, right? If you want to take the vacation, you might not be able to, right? So again, it's starting to look at the assets that you have. Are they in position to try and keep up with the additional costs that you are now potentially seeing? And if they're not, then we need to take a look at how can we help those assets work in a position to generate more growth and more income to be able to help cover these additional costs. I'm not talking about getting way ahead. I'm just talking about trying to tread water. Right? Because all of a sudden, if you have these inflational costs in Illinois, you have to have the additional inflational dollars with which to cover it. Otherwise, again, your standard of living does what? Goes down. Right? So, any questions before I turn it over to Tim?
No, that was good.
So, Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
So Milton was able to cover taxes when I was gone?
I've never